From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
Election officials in battleground states are warning it could still be a couple of days before all the votes are counted. Good evening to you at 11 o'clock. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starrentino. That means it could still be days before we know who will be the next president of the United States. Here's the latest look at the ABC News Electoral College map. According to the network's projections, neither candidate has won enough projected states to reach the 270 electoral votes needed to clinch the White House. President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden both spoke today. They had different messages about the vote counting.
I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech.
Each ballot must be counted, and that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world.
For the last 48 hours, all eyes have been on the handful of states where the presidential race is still too close to call. But the ballot counting going on in places like Georgia and Arizona also continues here in Indiana. WRTV's Cornelius Hawker shows you how the process has been playing out in Marion County more than 2 days after President Trump was declared the projected winner in Indiana.
It's Thursday after Election Day, and dedicated workers are still counting votes at the Marion County Vote Center, and they'll be here until every single one is counted. It looks a lot different than it did on Tuesday when hundreds of workers spent hours checking and counting ballots under the watchful eyes of people like Caroline Ellert.
So it's a multi-step process, and a bipartisan team is required to validate each steps of the way.
Caroline, who is a Democrat, explains the checks and security measures in place when you see votes being counted.
For counting absentees, it's a bipartisan team that goes through every single ballot. They check signatures. Each person checks each signature. They match that. Then it goes to a different set of bipartisan teams, and they check that the precinct on the ballot matches the precinct on the envelope. And then they check that there are two clerk initials on the back of the ballot. So it's a multi-step.
And only then, after all those checks, can a vote be counted. What's happening in Marion County is going on across the country in battleground states. Caroline says the public should have confidence that any votes being counted here in Indiana or elsewhere are all legitimate because of the security measures in place.
We all come together at that point, Democrats and Republicans, just to carry out the process that is dictated by state law. But we all come together in that moment to make sure that folks get the results of the elections as quickly as possible, but as accurately as possible.
County election boards certify results in 10 days after the election. Then the state certifies the results. That certification provides the authority to swear in newly elected office holders and how we get official election results. Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, WRTV.
We reached out to the Marion County Republican Party to get one of their vote watchers to talk for this story, but they did not get back to us.
This election is driving home the point that every vote matters, but in a reliably red state like Indiana, some voters may not feel that's true. WRTV's Cameron Riddle caught back up with the organizers of Souls to the Polls to see how they plan to keep Hoosiers engaged for the next election, no matter how big or small.
Souls to the Polls went well. We transported a few hundred people. We obviously didn't transport as many as we would have liked, but our goal was to get out the early vote, and we can say we participated in the success of the early vote here in Marion County and the surrounding cities.
As ballots continue to be counted in both Indiana and around the country, data shows a nearly 60% turnout rate from voters in Indianapolis. Dr. Clyde Posley, who led the Souls to the Polls effort, says despite those numbers, getting Hoosiers to return to the polls next time won't be any easier.
It is difficult to convince millennials, marginalized peoples, that their vote matters.
On election night, many Hoosiers were still in line waiting to go inside of their polling location when they got a push alert just 6 minutes after the polls closed, announcing that Donald Trump had already won Indiana. if they hadn't cast their ballot. Grassroots organizers say that only makes it more difficult to convince Hoosiers that their vote actually matters.
Minutes after the polls close. That is the type of chicanery and shenanigans that makes it an uphill climb when trying to get people registered to vote, when people are trying to be convinced of the reality that their vote really matters.
Posley and fellow organizer Tracy Boyd are already planning how the group will stay active. Boyd says they won't disappear until the next election. Instead, they'll be working to educate Hoosiers on how the election process works and how their vote could be the deciding factor in local races for mayor, sheriff, city councilors, and school board.
It's super important because if you don't have something in your community, then that's city. And then if you have something that requires funding, it might be state or it might be federal. And if we tie those pieces together, then people may feel more empowered to be involved.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Several Hoosier voters tell WRTV no matter who they voted for, how they voted, or how long they waited, it was well worth it.
I think that democracy works because people care, and I think showing people in Indiana and people elsewhere that we care is important. You're part of a bigger system.
I 100% think it's absolutely worth it to vote, even if you might not have faith in the system, even if you are in an area where, maybe perhaps your political ideology isn't as prevalent. It's still important to have that voice heard.
I think it was worth it because I want to be able to choose who represents us on the world stage, and I think that the only way to do that is to vote.
It's never too early to start planning for the next election. For more information about dates, deadlines, and more, go to indianavoters.in.gov.
And now to the forecast. WRTV Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory joins us now, helping you prepare for another beautiful day. Kevin, it has been just so nice lately.
It's always easy to prepare for a beautiful day, isn't it? Yes. Lay out your shorts and a short sleeve shirt.
These are the forecasts I like to listen to.
Yep, well, we got plenty to talk about. Next 4 days, pretty flawless is the way I'd put it. 53 in Kokomo, it's 51 in Indianapolis right now. The wind during the day tomorrow out of the southwest, not as strong as what we had, and combine that with sunshine, we're headed to the 70s, the lower 70s. Wind will be generally 10 miles per hour. As far as the rest of state, temperatures from north to south, we're way above the average high. That's the average high. You're looking at 58, and then these are the predicted high temperatures for tomorrow, and they're not the warmest within my forecast. It gets warmer as we get to the weekend and the beginning of next week. Enjoy these temperatures because there is an obvious change in the middle of next week. We'll talk about a thunderstorm transition to the cooler temperatures as well coming up in just a bit.
We are working to learn more about a shooting on the northwest side of Indianapolis. It happened at around 9:45 tonight on Oakwood Trail near 71st and Georgetown Road. Police say a girl was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Investigators believe she was not the intended target. We will bring you updates as we get new information.
IMPD's chief says that he hopes the release of video evidence in a police shooting is a step toward greater transparency. The footage is from security cameras and an officer's body camera. This happened in September at an apartment complex on the east side. Police say two people shot at each other as officers walked up to respond to a report of a disturbance. Police say officers thought the shooting was aimed at them, so they returned shots, hitting a man in the arm. Video shows them providing aid to that man and the woman he's accused of shooting. Chief Randall Taylor says releasing this evidence is part of an effort to build trust with the community.
We understand the desire to have the transparency. I'm not against that in any way, and I'll do my part to make sure that we get these types of things out.
Pastor David Green Sr. is the president of the Concerned Clergy of Indianapolis. The group has been pushing for increased transparency from IMPD. He agrees that this kind of transparency can help build trust between the community and police, but he says the department cannot pick and choose when it comes to releasing video. He hopes this is a new standard for all critical incidents.
The key is going to be consistency. The key is, while we did it on this particular shooting, because historically there have been times when footage has been released, but we don't have consistency. And then we look at another shooting where there's maybe things have leaked out through the community, and IMPD doesn't release it.
Chief Taylor says that won't be the case. You can watch the full video on our website at WRTV.com.
Now to the latest on the spread of COVID-19 in Indiana. The state continues to report record cases and hospitalizations. Today's update from the State Department of Health shows 4,462 new positive cases between October 23rd and yesterday. That is the first time the daily update has topped 4,000. The state also set a new high for hospitalizations with 1,948. Remember, those are people, not numbers, and people are also taking care of those who are suffering.
These patients are dying alone in the hospital at times, which is very difficult for our staff. There's a lot of tough conversations that we have to have.
Dr. Mark Luchtemeier is the Chief Medical Officer with IU Health Methodist and University Hospitals. He tells me the current state of things is difficult because there seems to be more of a disconnect about the severity of the virus compared to the first wave. Hospitals are also facing staffing shortages while current workers are fatigued.
And that's what I worry about from a burnout and from a wellness standpoint is, we can keep up a pace for a short period of time. Much harder to do that over a long run. And this marathon just hasn't stopped. So if you think about the life of a hospital, cycles throughout the year. So sometimes you're busy, sometimes you're not as busy. We know respiratory viral season in the wintertime, we're prepared to be busy. But sometimes during the summer months, you have that option to take some time away, to recoup and refresh. We didn't have that opportunity this year.
Dr. Luchtemeier stresses that you can help ease the strain on hospitals and help save lives simply by wearing a mask, social distancing, and avoiding social gatherings.
Anyone who lives or works in Indiana can still get a COVID test for free. There are no other requirements. You can register at an Optum site at lhi.care/COVID testing or by calling 888-634-1116. You can also register at a community test site. The link is on the State Department of Health website.
Schools that are very tuition dependent, they can't lose many students and really be hurting financially.
The pandemic could change how colleges and universities operate forever. Coming up, what that means for students and staff.
And if you need a boost getting back into the job market or are thinking about making a career change, a program that provides free training and resources is looking for students. It's never too late to get a flu shot. Today, the Children's Museum and Riley Children's Hospital teamed up to offer flu shots to hundreds of guests. This is one of several flu vaccine events hosted by the museum in recent weeks. Health officials say it's important for everyone who can to get a flu shot.
All children from all the way as young as 6 months of age up to the elderly are eligible to get the flu vaccine, and it's important that all ages get it. The more people who get it in a family, the better the cocoon that can happen, and so we can protect more people that way.
Doctors say the flu shot is even more important this year to avoid a twindemic of the seasonal flu and COVID. You can get a flu vaccine at many locations, including a doctor's office, pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens, or local health departments.
Now to the forecast. It was a great day and night to be out on Monument Circle. Kevin joins us now, tracking more sun and unseasonably warm temperatures. Kevin.
Yeah, Amanda, I think we've extended kind of outdoor dining here for a while longer, and you will see a big temperature hit in the middle of next week, but then we should bounce back after that. 51 in Indianapolis right now. It's 5 degrees warmer up in Lafayette. These are current temperatures, and remember, we'll be very warm over the next few days. Here are a couple headlines for you. I can describe warm, sunny, and dry. That's your next 4 days. Some of that may be record warmth Sunday and Monday. We'll zero in on transition day Tuesday as thunderstorms are possible along a strong cold front. There's the front. This is 7 p.m. Tuesday night. I'm just kind of jumping ahead because with everything staying the same here in the short term, you might wonder, all right, when's it going to change? And there's your answer. Tuesday night, we'll have to keep our eye on the potential for strong to severe storms late Tuesday into Tuesday night. Definitely opens the door to colder temperatures. Monday, we're at 75. Tuesday, still in the low 70s ahead of the thunderstorms, and then you see what happens. Wednesday, partly cloudy and temperatures in the lower 50s. We do have a little secondary season. Anytime we're making these seasonal transitions, severe storms are possible. Don't forget the Storm Shield app. It is free for your phone. Back to the next few days. Tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, that's how nice it will be. The record Sunday, 76, and you can see we forecast 75 for the high. Sunshine tomorrow. Comfortable temperatures at 71. Tomorrow afternoon, just about all of central Indiana at 70 or above. And it will be a great night for Friday night football in the 50s with a clear sky. 7-day forecast, as I mentioned, status quo, not much changes through Monday. The change Tuesday, increasing chance for thunderstorms late in the day. Definitely cooler, and you will change the way you dress. Wednesday and Thursday, 50s for highs when we're back into the 30s for lows. But that's down the road. Concentrate on the warm stuff here the next few days.
My eyes are on it, Kevin. COVID-19 has left many people jobless, forcing them to look for other work and possibly change careers. That's why WRTV's Hiring Hoosiers initiative is more committed than ever to connecting you to opportunities. The Washington Township Adult Education Program is offering free job skills training to any Marion County resident right now impacted by the pandemic. The program serves about 1,800 students a year and offers a range of career training in high-demand industries set by the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. They are trying to find people who are unemployed or underemployed to enroll for this session by November 15th.
We're having people who are coming to us from the hospitality industry, the restaurants who are really struggling to get the hours they used to get, and they're deciding to make that change at this point in their life.
Thanks to new funding, if you don't have a high school diploma, the program can pay for your high school equivalency exam. Plus, they have free classes and tutoring sessions. For more info, go to hiringhoosiers.com and click on this story.
The pandemic could change higher education forever. Some universities are cutting majors. Others are cutting staff and tenured professors. Scripps reporter Dan Grossman takes a look at the personal toll of these losses and what it means for the future.
This is, in a lot of ways, a career-ending move.
4 months ago, Susan Ramlow never thought she'd be here.
I will tell you that everybody seemed to think that they were on the hit list as soon as they found out that it existed. Everybody I talked to.
She figured her 26 years of tenure, her international recognition, her work ethic would ensure her job security.
My exit interview took all of 5 minutes.
Instead, she now sits in her home in Ohio as a former physics professor at the University of Akron, along with 96 others who were cut to save money back in July.
I still had hope until the arbitrator's decision, and I pretty much cried for 3 days.
The pandemic has exacerbated serious economic challenges some schools have been battling for years as birth rates in the country decline and higher education isn't as prioritized as it used to be.
When COVID arrived, we chose to cancel our increase in tuition, room, and board. That had a financial cost for us.
Rock Jones is the president of Ohio Wesleyan University, a school that just cut 18 majors from its curriculum. He says in October, the university had to slash $7.5 million from its budget, a number that increased to more than $12 million, or a fifth of its operating budget once COVID hit.
It's a big loss. It's a big loss.
For David Treadwell, it is difficult to stomach. The journalism program is one that drew him to serve as the Ohio Wesleyan's Dean of Admissions in the 1970s. Knowing students will no longer get that education casts a grim picture, he says, for not only the profession, but the university's prospective base, as students might now look to transfer to pursue their majors elsewhere.
Schools like a Bowdoin, where I went, has a huge endowment. Harvard, those places, they can get by this. Schools that are very tuition dependent, they can't lose many students and really be hurting financially.
Even those bigger universities are being affected. By one estimate, the pandemic has cost universities across the nation $120 billion. It's forced the University of Florida to take the first steps in furloughing some of its employees. And at the University of California, Berkeley, it's made them pause admissions into these 3 postgraduate programs, leaving kids who may have wanted to go there for years to look elsewhere for their postgraduate plans.
Being alone during this, and especially during a pandemic, would be so mentally taxing.
Large changes that can be felt on a scale as small as one former professor who is now looking for where her life goes from here. I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
station working for you. This is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
The pandemic is impacting college athletics in different ways. Some teams are playing, some are just starting practice, and some will not have a season at all. Brad Brown visited Butler, where different scenarios are playing out all on the same campus.
On a crisp November night, the Butler women's soccer team gets in another solid session on the field.
Can we punish it?
All of this practice for a season that is not happening right now and still seems so far away.
Kind of doubling down on, well, practice needs to be super competitive, and we need to be going above and beyond in terms of forming that culture and that identity that we value so much.
BU's season was postponed by the pandemic, same across the board for fall sports. These players among thousands of student athletes that are left waiting, but still working.
Our coaches have done such a great job at just recreating that competitive environment and that atmosphere that we would have during a regular season or during a real game. And so we're coming to practice, we're getting after it, we're still competing.
It hasn't slowed the level of intensity for these Bulldogs. Coach Rob Alwyn's squad spent several months working out on their own. Players stuck at home in varying forms.
My backyard grass is really long and not the most ideal space, so I'd mostly be in my garage and slipped a couple times.
It's all about us every day. Being able to actually train harder more often during the week than we would in a regular season where we're coming off, typically a couple of games a week.
They will get a chance to play. They just don't yet know when. But the opportunity to just keep kicking is enough to keep their spirits up.
It's like we picked up right where we left off. We're just getting after it, and like we talked about, there's no really outside pressures or distractions right now. We just get focused on getting better and following the tactics, and nothing else that we have to worry about at the moment.
We have the opportunity to go play for a conference championship, national tournament set for the spring as well. So I don't think there's much more motivation needed.
Meanwhile, inside Hinkle Fieldhouse, the Butler men's basketball team is on track for a season that's still being assembled.
It's been hard, but it's been good. We got a bunch of new guys, so obviously the time that we missed in the summer was an important time for us, but just getting to learn each other's game, trying to mesh as well as we can. Short time to do that.
Now, with some games on the calendar, the Dogs can look forward to meaningful minutes on this court very soon.
We've been locked in from when we were all together as a team, but like I said, on the 25th, having that date on it, but seeing the opponent, knowing who we're going to play, definitely got us more excited as opposed to just playing with each other against each other every day.
Butler will open on November 25th against Western Michigan. The Big East schedule starts at home on December 14th. The BU women's team has their Big East home opener on for December 4th. Both schedules will continue to get filled out in the weeks ahead. Brad Brown, WRTV Sports.
So I tell you how beautiful tomorrow will be. Temperatures low 70s with lots of sunshine, but you say, I've got to work. I can't get out and enjoy it. Guess what? We'll do it again Saturday and Sunday. Amanda, it only gets better.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better weekend. TGIF. Thanks for making WRTV your choice for news. Good Morning Indiana starts at 4:30. Good night.